I was about to say cracks are starting to form, but I have done enough of these stories where I keep recognizing this guy's name, and they're this EU foreign policy chief, and every time I see the story, it's always him, Joseph Borrell.
Borrell. Yeah.
Borrell. Thank you. Um, I saw this story, and I also reported on something a few weeks ago how the Social Democrats in Sweden and Finland, who are the NATO leftists who was all for the war in Ukraine because they're fucking children who don't know anything about history, so they just follow the United States. I don't know if you saw the story, John, but there were a lot of local officials that were saying they was disillusioned after seeing United States Israel policy because they really believed like Anthony Blinken and all these State Department goons when they said we are against war crimes and we support the fight in Ukraine because we are against Russian war crimes. And a lot of these dummies in Sweden and Finland believed them, I guess. So, and there was the story. I don't have the article saved, but I may show you guys one time where they like all these people like disillusioned. And maybe this is happening in the EU, but Joseph Borrell have been consistently criticizing the U.S. and the EU, NATO foreign policy regime. He was critical of their policy in Ukraine. Now look at what he said, calling out the Biden administration. He says, "Well, if you believe," let me zoom this in so you guys can see a little bit better. These sites are horrible. Well, if you believe that too many people are being killed, maybe you should provide less arms in order to prevent so many people from being killed. This is what he told reporters after a meeting, an EU meeting. If the international community believes that this is a slaughter, that too many people are being killed, maybe we have to think about provision of arms. So even people in the EU see the quote unquote magic wand that everyone in the Biden administration is pretending that they don't see.
That's absolutely correct. I mean, the people are really beginning to voice real opposition to this slaughter, and it's understandable. This was the first time that we had a front row seat to this kind of assault. Let's remember. Let's put this in context. Libya, when NATO attacked and destroyed the Libyan state, it's estimated that between 30 and 50,000 people were murdered. Now, what's the difference? The difference is that we didn't have a front row seat.
Yeah.
But the Obama administration engaged in a 3-month bombing campaign that murdered those thousands of people. They completely destroyed the infrastructure of that country, the most prosperous country on the African continent. This time, because of their delusional perspective on the world, they thought that after October 7th, that they were going to cover the glorious assault on the part of the IDF on Hamas in Gaza. Not understanding that when you're dealing with a fanatical, a racist lunatic like Netanyahu and his government, that this was an opportunity that they had been looking for decades, and that they were going to go all the way. And that's exactly what they did. They engaged in this massive carpet bombing. They had no consideration for civilian life. And the result was, as a consequence of all of the media attention, was the revulsion by the world. And they couldn't just pull out. So what the Israelis started doing was targeting the journalists. It was amazing, Nick. I couldn't understand why the journalists kept on basically targeting themselves with these big signs that said press. For the Israelis, when you said we have press, that meant shoot him or her. Okay. And so they for the first time, the entire world saw the true nature of this settler colonial project and understood in graphic terms what Europeans really think about non-European life. And they couldn't pull back. Now they have, if you notice, over the last couple of weeks, less and less of those graphic stories are penetrating the bourgeois press in the West. Okay, and there's almost been like a simultaneous understanding that we got to cool this thing down. But it's too late now. It's absolutely too late. So this Joseph Borrell, he's saying some stuff that's all right now. But let's remember, you commented, you said that he said some stuff about Ukraine. He at one point was one of the biggest cheerleaders in
Of
support
course.
of Ukraine. Okay. And he's the one that made that piggish statement about the Europe being like a paradise and everybody else living in the jungle. He's a white supremacist also. But it's so graphic and so bad what we're seeing unfolding in Gaza that even pigs like him feel compelled to at least say something in opposition to it. And that's the dilemma that they have. That's why we say they're never going to recover from this ideologically and politically. Never.